Ronen has joined in as well. Yeah.
Oh, he's here. Okay.
Maybe you need to.
Oh, yes. Ronen has been there first. Hey, Ron, I think you can unmute slash pop on video.
Yo,
Hey, how's it going?
good. Sorry, I had a little bit of trouble joining.
No worries, all good, all good. Perfect. So I think, first of all, I think welcome Ron and Pratik both. I was just chatting a little bit about Pratik getting started and warmed up while we were waiting for you to pop in as well. But it's really great to have both of you today here joining for this conversation, and thank you again for taking out the time. Coincidentally, yesterday or day before yesterday, Ron and your team mentioned that Pratik is going to be joining in, and when I look back on my records, I realized I talked to Pratik while he was at TikTok before this, almost like a year and a half ago. So it was like a funny thing. I just pinged him yesterday on WhatsApp that, hey man, like great to connect with you tomorrow again after a year or so. So, thanks for inviting him as well. I wasn't expecting this, so this will be a fun conversation. So welcome once again.
Thank you so much, and yeah, we're actually very lucky to have Pratik in our team. Coming from TikTok and with wide experience in the gaming industry, so I figured having him on the call was just as valuable as having me here.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm overstating my own value.
No, I think it's just fine. So perfect. So I think just for a little bit of a context for the audience as well. So Ronen has been in the industry for I think more than a couple of decades now. He's right now.
You dated me like a good French wine already.
Yeah, the old gets better, right? Like I'm mid past 30s, so I'm in the same bucket, right? No, not getting younger anytime soon. So Ronen has been in the sort of the gaming industry broadly, especially focusing on the ad monetization, etc. Especially now for the last 7-8 years with AppsFlyer. And right now he's heading the entire sort of Asia Pacific region. And Pratik has been focusing on the business side, sales side of that as well, focused heavily on the India region as well, right now with AppsFlyer, but then previously with TikTok, as we were just chatting before you pop in. So today I'm excited to dive more into how the gaming industry broadly and the mobile app space broadly is taking shape. So would love to get that started. But before we dive into some meaty questions, would love to understand some high level about both of your journeys, how in the last couple of decades your viewpoints have shaped around the whole gaming/mobile ecosystem. So maybe Ron, if you can just share a little bit about how you see this sort of industry growing in the last couple of days and where you see it heading.
Yeah, so thanks so much for having us here. We really appreciate this opportunity, and I think it's great to see one of my I guess bold predictions that I've made for a number of years is that India gaming is going to be on the world map. And I think this was when, I think 4 years ago when gaming India was not even in the top 20 countries for gaming. And now look where it is, right? It's amazing. And, I think the beauty of it is just getting started. And so I think that, the fact that a lot of, I want to say that the audience, if this is in India, did not grow up with gaming as part of the culture. Mobile gaming was not there. Console gaming was really a very elitist type of luxury. And yeah, I think gaming as we knew it was watching, or as you guys know, was watching cricket and maybe playing rummy somehow. And so I think I'm super excited to see what's going to happen in India. I want to say in the coming years, but forget that. I want to see what's going to happen this year, right? Yeah. I think that's what's going to be the most exciting thing. For myself, I've been in the mobile industry for now 18 years. I consider myself a mobile dinosaur. Yes, I've been here longer than you, and I'm proud of it. But yeah, I mean, I started really on the mobile content side, and this was back in 2005 when people really didn't understand what was possible on mobile. And at that time, understanding that there was a correlation between offering content on mobile and being able to monetize on mobile. And mobile, the beauty of it then and the beauty of it today is that mobile is a closed loop ecosystem, right? We discover on mobile, we play on mobile, we pay on mobile, and we ultimately churn on mobile. And this is the beauty of mobile content, and especially gaming space. So personally, I learned like how to monetize content on mobile, whether it was games or jokes or other VAS type of services on feature phone. And that was pretty cool back then. And I moved from that into the mobile kind of advertising side. And at that point, the industry was transforming from feature phone to smartphone, from VAS to app. And the same logic held true, was that was a closed loop ecosystem. And if you could figure out how to monetize a user, you could have them for whatever period of time. And, but one of the things that I understood very quickly in the app ecosystem was that the collaboration between advertiser and media was broken. And that was because of the App Store, right? And it, this is, and I experienced a lot of friction, and I came across this small little company in Israel. I think there were 4 people at that time, and they built this solution that allowed advertisers and publishers to actually connect on through the app ecosystem in an unbiased way, and that was the company AppsFlyer. And not soon after I discovered them, I actually joined them in 2014, because it solved actually the biggest pain point that marketers have then, and marketers, I will say, still have today. And that's, being able to measure discovery and monetization in this ecosystem. And so today, 8 years later, I'm still at the AppsFlyer. It's just, and I feel that every day it's such a challenge in a positive way, that this industry continues to grow. Web3 is and NFT gaming is absolutely fascinating. I still think it's at its very nascent stages. It reminds me of, gaming in 2005 on feature phone. It's got to come a long way, but there's so much hope and so much promise there, that I'm so excited to see what's going to happen in the next, in the coming months, and probably the next, I want to say in the next 2 years, it's really going to define what this ecosystem is going to look like, and it moves much faster than it did back then. So that's kind of the brief about myself, and maybe Pratik, you can do your intro as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ronen. I think a lot of good insights. I think I know you better after this session today. I didn't know a lot of facts about you. Good to hear that. So a bit about where my journey started with gaming, right? I mean, just like any other sort of teenager in India, we've started our journeys with gaming from our PCs, and I think that revolution in 2015 and 16 saw a lot of users move to the mobile. I was definitely one of the early sort of users of that. I've been an avid gamer all throughout, and I think I really started being interested from the business side of things right from the get-go, because I started my career off in core performance marketing. Even though gaming was like a very small segment in terms of the overall revenue coming in, it was something that was really exciting for me. I had the chance. I was fortunate enough to start working with initial players, back in the real money gaming days of Rummy and poker, which was where India gaming started with. In terms of the mobile ecosystem, we worked with a lot of these older players in the poker and Rummy segment. But then we realized, in terms of monetization, it's apart from real money gaming, there's a whole world out there. I started working with a lot of advertisers. In my second leg of the journey, I've worked majorly across sort of ad platforms, such as UAPI, which is a mobile advertising network, and then with TikTok. Now with TikTok, it was a match made in heaven, because the kind of TG TikTok had in India and the gaming TG was pretty much an overlap, and what we found really interesting is the kind of uh, user acquisition that was happening, and at the massive scale that was happening, right? So we started evolving with a lot of these advertisers, and then they started looking at gaming much beyond just a few 100,000 users, and saw this as a mass movement. And that was that what really sort of got me excited. And I think with the advent of really big players like the likes of MPL, with Winzo, with the likes of Dream 11, seeing a lot of massive movement and it becoming sort of part of pop culture, it really spread its wings. And fortunate enough to work with a lot of product managers, a lot of marketing managers as they grow in their journey. And here, right now, in terms of what we are seeing, like what Ronen mentioned, right? I'm really excited about what's going to happen this year itself. Leave aside all that's happening in Web 2, Web 3. Leave aside what's happening in Play to Earn. There's still a lot of room in terms of growth of both the casual and hyper casual gaming segment, as well as a lot of story based mid-core games in India. I think that's where there lies a big sort of opportunity. India has traditionally been very big on hyper casual and casual gaming. But I think from a game development, from a resource point of view, I think there's a lot more that's there from the India market in terms of developing new games. It's becoming a hub for development, right? We see one of the most interesting stories of development has been something like game development hubs in Turkey, right? Turkey has become a huge, massive market for gaming titles coming in, and I predict and I hope the same happens with India in terms of the mid-core and hardcore space, because there is a lot of storyline to tell. There is a lot of characters that users can develop, and I'm really excited for that segment to grow. But overall, I think casual and hyper casual definitely will be number one in the space. And hopefully, another interesting fact is a lot of these players will then start moving into global markets. Right now, a lot of these Indian advertisers are focused on local India market itself, given the fact that it's such a large market. But again, if they have their globalization and localization strategies in place, we'll see a lot of these games being exported. And that's when the fun really begins. And so, yeah, I think this is what I've witnessed over the last couple of years, and I'm really excited being on ground, working with a lot of game developers and advertisers in the India market. And this is what we see currently.
Yeah, no, I think I perfectly resonate with the sentiments that you guys shared, right? Like Ron, you mentioned, right? Like the problem, there was so a massive problem between people who wanted to advertise, but people who had the inventory to advertise, etc. Right? Like there was such a big gap that people couldn't talk, right? Same way we feel like, Turkey is a good example that Pratik you mentioned regarding becoming a game dev hub just because the talent was booming in the space, right? Similarly, like I think I made that early bet back in 2010 in India when studios didn't exist. There were hardly any names that, okay, I'm going to make my career switch into the gaming industry, whether, somebody's going to support me or not, but I'm going to be hell bent on doing that, right? So kind of like that was the genesis and the seed for even Outscal back in 2018, that we knew that similar problem existed where a lot of people wanted to get into it, but fundamentally just don't know how, right? And where to get started. And I think a lot of the audience today as well, who is either watching us on YouTube Live or here, right? Majority of them are more developer focused, right? Like they're on the building side of the games, but not from a business perspective of it, right? So I think learning more from you guys in terms of how to think about the right kind of monetization structure, what are the future trends that you guys are seeing, I think that will be exciting as well. So, so diving into just that aspect, right? Like, since both of you guys have been very much knee deep into sort of the Asia segment, India segment, etc., right? How do you guys see, broadly, if I'm a studio today or an indie developer today thinking about building a mobile game first for Indian market, right? How should I think about the monetization strategy, acquisition strategy broadly versus if I was doing this for the rest of the world, right? Because I think a lot of developers who are just getting started, new studios, trip up on this, that they look at a strategy from a Western studio, try to mimic that, and completely falls flat, right? So what are some of these nuances that over the years that you would have learned can help people getting started in terms of their monetization journey, be it as an indie studio, solo developer, a smaller service-based studio, whatever it may be, right? Maybe Ron, you want to take that first?
I think maybe I can talk a little bit better about what's happening outside of India, but I think Pratik might be better what's going on inside of India, and I'm sure we both have global opinions. But I think that, like, if you look at the Asia, which for me, Asia is the world, right? You know, there's some acute generalizations, right? And I'll talk about two of them. One is that mobile gamers in Asia, they like free to play or free to download, right? I mean, there's very little, premium, like buy the game before you can play it. And monetization largely is accomplished through like IAP and advertising. So, and you may find different nuances in different markets. So, for example, like in Japan, talk about gacha, right? It's very common there. The loot box, the way loot boxes work, that a lot of times people will download the game, look at the gift or the free prize that they get, and if they're not happy, they delete the game, and then reinstall the game and keep doing that over and over until they think that this, like, oh, okay, I'm happy with what I have now, I'll go and play. And then I think another thing that we've seen, and this is actually evidence-based information, is that while Asian gamers, the price points at which they monetize in are lower than they are in the Western world, so let's say outside of Asia, they actually buy more frequently. And these type of transactions, whether it's the habit that we've developed in Asia of microtransactions, rather than making a single big purchases, is a little bit more common. And this is in a mass scale, right? Of course, you can find whales and dolphins in any geography that you look, right? And that's just a function of wealth, right? Or in some places where gaming is more prevalent, right? I think that one of the if you look across Asia, I would say probably like one of the countries that may or may not surprise you is Vietnam. Vietnam has seemed to have the gaming is built into the culture there. It's been there for a long time. But the thing about Vietnam that is probably unlike any other place in the world, when they have a hit, it's a global smash. So if you think back to Flappy Birds, that was the cusp of hyper casual gaming, right? This very short gameplay that got people addicted into it. And what happened after Flappy Birds? Well, you guys all know what happened, right? Hyper casual became pretty much one of the mainstays or the main genres of gaming. And if we fast forward to 2021, does anyone know what the biggest gaming smash that happened globally was? Yes, you guys all guessed it. It's Axie Infinity, right? So if you talk about that, maybe it's a sign of what's to come as well, right? With NFT gaming and what is possible, right? So again, these are early iterations of these specific genres, but I think that Asia tends to lead the way. Why? Again, if you look at a mass scale, we don't have the luxury of having console and PC, right? Gaming is mobile, and mobile is everything. So if you can do it on that environment, then that's where you're going to accomplish the best outcomes for yourself. So that's kind of my Asia lens. Pratik, do you want to share a little bit about your what you see on the India side?
Sure. I think I think when it comes to monetization, right, and making money off games, I think there's a reason why real money gaming is sort of 70% of the revenue in terms of gaming in India. It's mainly because in terms of your in-app purchases and in-app ads, it has been a very small due to sort of the revenue per mil in terms of the RPMs. In terms of the average revenue per user, it has always been on the lower end. And hence, in terms of even the casual gaming strategies, it's mostly been sort of scale and quantity over ARPU, right? And hence, I think the advertisers have really figured out to create these real money gaming apps. In fact, even casual gaming apps have real money real money elements to it, and in fact, a lot of them are hence APK based gaming. Just a quick, simple example of MPL, Winzo, which are some of the largest, sort of collaborator of sort of casual games in India, have found a way to sort of monetize and bring in the real money aspect to it. But going forward, I think what is also happening. Yeah. So going forward, what is also happening is the users are maturing. I think overall, we do see an uptick in terms of average revenue per users in gaming as a segment. And right now, gaming titles need to really form their base in terms of building a brand impact. It's not just creating games that you're meant to delete the next day. It's about creating an impact, creating titles which have a good amount of brand saliency, which has a good recall in terms of users playing in it, and hence what gaming advertisers are focusing on is building these elaborate games which are which tend to have more playtime, right? Thereby revenues in terms of in-app purchases and in terms of in-app ads are increasing due to that time spent on the app, and especially during COVID, I think this is what happened. The overall time spent within gaming apps increased, thereby increasing sort of revenue for them. And I think that's also been a focus for a lot of advertisers. I do see a lot of these games evolving to certain complex games and not just your simple play and delete sort of a model. But having said that, obviously, hyper casual, there are a lot of indie developers, mobile developers who are testing hyper casual games at scale and only sort of optimizing on the ones that work best in terms of ARPU. And I think that's where it's very important to have strong analytics in terms of understanding how your gaming apps are doing, and not just from a revenue standpoint, but key retention metrics, understanding uninstalls, understanding certain cohorts of users who have who are technically giving you a much larger lifetime value. And that's what we do here at AppsFlyer. We help sort of these gaming apps understand these core metrics beyond revenues, focused on sort of usage of the app. And I think those would be sort of key strategies for indie developers to understand at a very early stage that who are your core target audience to go after, reiterate, optimize campaigns better, so that even at small scale you are pinpointing your targeting to the right audience. So I think that's definitely one. Yeah.
And I think, Pratik, you mentioned something that I think is probably the most important metric in gaming right now, and it was the most important gaming metric from the beginning. It's retention.
Yeah.
If you can't retain, it doesn't matter how good your game is, right? Or how good your gameplay is. If you can't keep the user in the game and keep them engaged, forget it. So the number one metric that any game, I don't care if it's on a feature phone that is in a tier 4 city, or if it's on a very high powered PC in blockchain, right? Retention is still the most critical metric. It doesn't matter, and that hasn't changed, and I don't think it will ever change. And so you see, even in current state with Web3 gaming, tokenomics it's just all about trying to keep the users there, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, I think you guys are pretty spot on here. But like, I think one question that when you look at the broader market, right? Like I think Pratik also mentioned a couple of times example of MPL and Binzo as one of the larger players in the ecosystem as well, right? So if you look at probably the last 5 years or so, there have been a certain uprise in terms of business models evolving around aggregation, right? Like whether you're actually building games in-house or aggregating third-party games onto your platform. And that has been something new that we are seeing. I think Paytm started doing it early on and so on and so forth with their first games first brand as well, right? So like, are you seeing from an indie developer?
By the way, you know where that game's first branding approach came from?
I have no idea.
On Paytm, it actually came from China.
Oh, okay, interesting.
If you look at Alibaba in China and Taobao, gaming is a very, very core component of that.
Correct, absolutely. Yeah, I think those guys are massive when it comes to building literally everything inside an app, right? Like gaming, e-commerce, movies, OTT, and like everything is just packed into one super app. And
if you want the guy in India who built that into Paytm, let me know. I can introduce you to him.
Got it. Awesome. Sure. So I think but are you guys seeing that like for indie developers to really build a meaningful business, having strong partnerships with these kind of players is the way to go, or versus staying independent, you still see strong unit economics in terms of that you can build a sustainable business for a small team of self-publishing, not going the publisher way or an aggregator way, etc. Right? Like, how do you see, a smaller studio or an independent developer trying to push the creative freedom? Because frankly, like Flappy Bird's kind of examples are 1 in a million, right? Like, so what's the realistic scenario in terms of your recommendation for folks who would want to pursue a creative endeavor? How's the right way for monetization across the board?
From my view, it's like any business, right? Most, and I don't mean to be a negative sentiment, most will fail, right? And I'm sure you've all read how many times Rovio failed until they had their hit, right? And I think that we hear this too often, and about following your passion, but I think you really have to do what you believe in, right? And if you build something that is good enough and stay long enough through the pain funnel, ultimately you're going to come out of it one way or another, right? And I think that if you're an independent developer, just focus on building the best game that you can. A lot of times I see that companies, whether they are big or small, they try to diversify themselves very quickly, try to build tools that are available like off the rack. They try to do things that is not core to their business. And I think at the very, very early stage, and this is the most critical part, is that focus on making sure that you create the best gameplay that you can possibly do within your resource capability, right? And there's me too's of me too's of me too's out there. How are you going to differentiate yourself? You have to be aware of that, and it's typical marketing logic applies, right? That you're not going to spend outspend a Zynga or a Tencent or anyone else in this space, especially at that early phase. So it's about making sure that you build the right product, and and grow through partnerships and grow through any way that you can, through communities. And today, building a hit game is much easier than it was in the past, just because there's so many ways to reach users, right? Potential users of your game. And I think this is, for this community out there, this is the most, if there's any time that that you want to be in this space, it's now. Gaming is at its all-time high, right? The access to gamers, the access to media, the access to social, the access to different types of platforms that can help you acquire, it's all there. So, just really focus on what your strategy is and the mission that you've set up, and go for it.
No, I think I 100% agree that the number of opportunities have increased many folds just in the last few years alone in terms of avenues for getting your game out and ways for reaching your target customer. But I think the last line that you said, right, I focus on the strategy. That's, I think, the key there, right? Because you can be drowning in opportunities on ways to monetize, but you need to be really mindful about, okay, I'm building this type of a game, and these are the past examples where these kind of games have worked. And these are the channels, whether it's an ad channel, whether it's a community channel, whether it's a YouTube approach, what channels have worked successfully in the past and most realistically will work for you. I think identifying those first and making sure that your strategy is focused around that. I think that's the golden ticket in order to maximize the chances of success, right? Because otherwise you're shooting 20 arrows in the dark. You just don't know any is going to even hit in the right direction or not, right? So I think the strategy part that you nailed on in the last part was, like, I think, key. Pratik, anything you want to add as well?
I think I see a lot of questions in terms of how to publish games, right, and what channels are the best, right? I mean, to be honest, I mean, there are multiple ways to look at this. I mean, think of it like as a super app and as well as an individual app, right? Even the super app is a combination of multiple apps. The individual apps still exist on their own, and it's just two different streams of monetization. So I think it's best to sort of have that as a revenue share model instead of, like, building to sell games. It could be sort of two different channels of revenues for you in terms of bringing strong partnerships, developing strong partnerships for your games to be listed on certain stores, certain super apps, and also have to have your own distribution networks. So I think that's we've seen a lot of apps do this, where they have multiple sort of channels of distribution. I think that those are the ones which are succeeding better, and that's something I believe in as well.
Yeah, I think I think there are a bunch of questions, so let me come back to them in just another 5 minutes. But one thing I want to understand, and we mentioned this a little bit, at least Ron, and you mentioned this about the Axie Infinity and the Web3 trend that has picked up quite a lot. So what's your overall take, especially when you think about the future of mobile marketing / acquisition versus Web3 coming in? So how do you see the whole equation play out in your mind, through the looking glass? What's the angle that you feel is the best for future of mobile gaming, tacking on, the layer of Web3?
God, it's so exciting. I think this is my age is showing that I'm trying to understand this stuff, and I'm trying to understand how this gameplay works in Web3 NFT gaming, and I don't get it so well, and I look at the young generation, and it's second nature to them. I think what's possible is when you see how platforms like Roblox are doing it, right? They are Web 2. They're not Web 3. Okay, but they're delivering that experience that you would want to have in a Web 3 world, right? You don't, the interoperability and the ownership of the assets that you can transfer and play between different games, that's not there yet, right? And that will come, right? But again, Roblox, Minecraft, that's all representative of, imagine Web3 in a steady state where I could jump from Minecraft and into Roblox and into an Axie and into something else, and carry whatever I've got with me. And I think this is exciting. This is exciting because it doesn't make sense that whatever we buy and whatever we've invested in one game, we can't take it anywhere else, right? The logic is there that, I've put money here, and as soon as I churn from that game, whatever I've invested, it's gone, right? And this is I think the main aspect that Web3 gaming is trying to solve, is that you as it's all about the gamer. It's not about, the developer. It's not about the publisher. It's not about the marketer. It's not about the, the platform. People take things wherever they want to go. And yes, the experience right now in Web3 gaming is pretty shit, right? And we all know that. We're excited about something really shitty. And the reason why we're excited about something really shitty is because what happens when it's not shitty? What happens when that experience actually starts to become good? And that's where the promise is. And I think, I don't know, I think there was you mentioned there was a question like, will there be ads in Web3 gaming? And the best response I have to that is that, do you see ads on F1 racing cars? I mean, do you actually see those ads? I mean, those cars are going damn fast, right? But the fact is that there's ads on racing cars, there's ads on bobsleds, there are ads on TV, there are ads in the radio, there are ads everywhere. So will there be ads in Web3? Of course there will be. So yes, that will be part of the monetization strategy. If you can't get someone to buy your token, at least you'll get someone to view an ad or to engage with an ad. And yeah, I think that's so the monetization strategies will still be there. The same tools that you have will still be there. But again, it goes back to one core metric: retention, right? And that's it.
Yeah. But do you think like the core nature of the ads transactional, right? That in some sense will change, right? Based on tokens being open and accessible, where right now, if I am watching an ad, I get an arbitrary value out of it, right? I might get some sword and something, but after watching thousands of ads. So do you think there'll be some kind of a fundamental shift in the way these games are designed / made? Because now, by the sheer nature of Web3, there is transparency, there is accountability, there is an open system where people can understand what's happening, versus like, if you remember, like years ago, there was a shitstorm that EA was facing regarding the gacha boxes and loot boxes, where the probabilities were so tiny that no matter what you do, you would never get a legendary item, right? You could spend millions of bucks and still you wouldn't, right? So all of these systems now, if they're implemented on Web3 and designed on Web3, there's fundamental transparency in the systems themselves, right? So do you think something about the whole economy and the way they are designed / implemented / transacted, right? Any of that, do you see a fundamental behavioral change coming into the equation?
I think the beauty is that everything is accountable, right? And I just had a thought that right now we see the ads, or do we really see these ads? We don't know, right? But we can almost become the ad ourselves, right? If each time we buy a pair of shoes in the metaverse and we wear them, imagine that we're getting paid every time we're running around somewhere, right? In our Nikes, or wearing a T-shirt that is Lacoste or something like that. And I think, you know, this will kind of be rethought about what exactly is an ad, but the ad will still be there. There will still be that influential element of what this person has, and assuming that they are cool, right? Or you know, someone that is you know, role model, an influencer, a great gamer, or whatever. And yeah, I think that's I think this whole the ads will still be there. It's just how they're going to be delivered.
Product placements of different sorts, like the Formula One example was pretty appropriate there as well. Yeah. Pratik, anything you want to chime in on the Web3 debate?
No, I think I'll just double tap on that, and I think we have such you know, ad formats right now as well. Like even if you play, say from the India kind of context, right? Even if you play, say, a cricket game, there are ads which are built into the, you know, the stadium itself. Like you don't necessarily look at them, but it's actually sponsored by brands. Uh, so basically, highly native format of ads which look very native to the whole gaming atmosphere. And I think that's what Ron was mentioning. There will always be ads. It's just how you perceive them, and it'll probably be like experiences. But yeah, I think apart from that, it's a very early stage right now, and all I have to say is I think there will be an additional form of monetization here, but it does not mean it will end the current formats of monetization which already exist right now. So yeah.
Yeah, I think perfect, right? Like that's always going to be the case. New currencies keep popping up. It doesn't mean the value of the old one or the way the old one works completely goes away, right? There's always this transition that happens, and people, like, sometimes the world figure out an equilibrium state to where both kind of make sense as well and have their own sort of use cases as well. So I think there's a again, like talking in aggregates, right? Like India usually as a market has always been said that it's great for downloads, right? But not for revenue. Revenue wise, we are just never a very big market overall, right? Versus China/US, etc. Right? So do you think like there's an inflection point coming where this is actually going to flip, whether it's a generational thing? Maybe Ronen, you and I, we are all old enough to say that, okay, we don't understand this, but the younger generation is so comfortable buying their first in-app item very easily because that's how they've been brought up with a mobile first ecosystem, etc. Right? Like, so are we seeing some kind of an inflection point coming where, you know, India is going to go from just the large download numbers to an actual large dollar amount industry where we are actually competing with the likes of US and China when it comes to total revenue generation, right? Like, are you seeing something macro shift there?
Are you saying within the India market itself, or just
within India and broadly Asia as well? Because I think Asia to a large extent also shares similar patterns, but India is probably on the other extreme end in terms of download/revenue.
Yeah, I think over time things will go up there, and in terms of ARPU, it's bound to happen, right? As more spending power exists and more disposable income exists, that will continue to rise. And I think I don't know if I have the data for it, but I'm pretty sure that it's supported that you know, the number of daily and monthly active users playing games in India has increased significantly. I think that you're going to see that as real gamers start to emerge, right? And the gaming culture is going to start to emerge. I mean, just think about it. Like a lot of you guys and girls in this call today are first-time gamers, right? Think what happens with the second generation. Many of you have kids already that are already playing games, right? And they're probably spending more money in their games than you are.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think this new generation of gamers is going to create a very, very big gaming economy in India. And for the time being, you don't need to worry about China because the games aren't being published in India. And this is the time, like there's always challenge and opportunity, right? And you know, while one's challenge is there, there's the opportunity, like to say, okay, this is the time to grow and really get the best shot at your home market, right? But I don't think it stops there. I really don't, and I believe that this year, maybe aside from the gaming space, but we've already seen it in the gaming space, where homegrown Indian products, whether it's Dream 11 or Hotstar, are going global, right? And why did Byju's just decide to sponsor the FIFA World Cup, right? This is an India brand, right? Homegrown in India, that is taken main stage in the biggest gaming competition in the world, right? So I think that there's enormous potential, and you know, I think for all of you out there, this is really your time, right? There's no better time than today, and you should all be very fortunate of the industry that you chose to be in, because I think that the opportunity and the chance of success today is much higher than it was last year or 3 years ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. So my message is, you know, go do it now. The worst thing that happens is you fail. That's it, right? And then you get back on your feet and you do it again with experience.
Or best thing can happen, you get a Flappy Bird out. And then you change the industry forever, or the next Axie Infinity or whatever, right? So whichever space you want to play in. But yeah, I think the sky on the upside is the limit, but the downside is that you get a bunch of learning and experience, and you repeat the wheel. So there's never been a better time to try and push that envelope further, right? So perfect. I think we are just about to hit on the time limit. Pratik, any closing thoughts that you want to add as well?
Right. I mean, just one thought, right? I think whenever we look at graphs in terms of growth in India, it's always pointing up, right? And that's the beauty of it. The way gaming has evolved over the last 2 years has been tremendous, and I don't think there will be a point where it will slow down at this moment. And you mentioned that yes, ARPU is low. We understand it's always on the lower spectrum. I mentioned that previously as well. But again, there are ways to sort of focus on those core elements of your game, building communities, figuring out your analytics, understanding your core TG, doubling down on the users who are there. Because if you build a game, there is definitely a very large TG in India for it. So it's not a problem of a very small addressable market. The total addressable market is huge, and hence, I mean, it's just about getting the facts right. It's just about getting the data right, and and that slowly and steadily that output should start improving and increasing. And yeah, there is definitely a lot of games which are very distractive in terms of the kind of ad placements that they have. It's just about blending and making it very native, giving a good experience, so that again it falls down to that one core metric, which is retention, which again sort of drives your revenue and your average revenue per user. And I think again, from an industry and from a country perspective, definitely as a whole, the ARPU is increasing and it will keep on increasing. But on an individual app level, on an individual game level, I think these are certain steps that you can take to sort of be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, no, I think perfect. And I think, Ronen, I just noticed that you had shared a report earlier in the chat. So thank you for that, guys. Please do check it out as well. I think it will be helpful. Because I know a lot of developers suck at this. It's the core when it comes to building businesses. But for the first half of my career, I had no freaking idea what it means to actually monetize games and all, but learned the hard way, right? So, I think thanks again for, both of you sharing so much knowledge and wisdom with the folks as well. And again, Ron, thanks again for sharing the report as well with the audience. and this has been a blast. I know we didn't get a chance to take a lot of audience questions, but hopefully folks learned a lot, in terms of ads and monetization. Usually things that we don't think about as developers first, as builders first, but are still equally important for the business as well. So thanks once again, and then would hope to host you guys again in 6 months time or so, and catch up again and see what's happening.
I think a lot will have happened by then.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably we'll be talking more about Web3 space and Axie Infinity, and hopefully the next Axie Infinity is not getting hacked.
Yeah, the next one is already out there. We just maybe haven't seen it yet.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfect. Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for joining in, and would really appreciate your time and effort here.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having us.
Take care, guys.
Everyone, bye.
Thanks, guys, for joining in as well, and really appreciate you guys sticking around. I know we didn't get a chance to pick up a bunch of the questions from the chat. I think a lot of the questions were more sort of dev focused, so it didn't seem too appropriate to throw it to Ronen. So my apologies there. I decided not to pick too many from there as well, but I'll be happy to jam on these questions in the Discord community. So feel free to use the the Discord events channel, and throw in your question there that are development focused. Tomorrow I'll be hosting Clan Labs at 7 p.m. So feel free to join in there on Discord. I'll be happy to take up some of these more developer focused questions and game dev focused questions there. Okay. Perfect. So thanks again everyone for joining in. I think we'll end the call now, and I'll see you guys back in Discord as well. Okay. Take care, guys. Ish, I think we can cancel the call.